I want to throw one more thing out here real quick, because this is actually the title of the show, is Can Modern Women Ever Trust Men? And the reason why I threw this on here is because the bear. Because of the bear. You guys have heard of the bear? The bear in the woods?
Was that really what it was? Was that what that was about? It was about trust? They trust a bear more than men?
They trust basically they trust a bear. And what's funny is, like, since then, every time there's a bear attack, somebody ends up in my feed, right? See, ladies? And of course, what happens is, I don't think people really understand, like, the whole principle behind that is, there was a video of a woman who was wanting to go pet like a grizzly bear. I think it might have been in like the Smoky Mountains or something, like Tennessee or some shit like that. It's not good. And so she had completely ignored the mansplaining guy who said, "Don't go to that bear, because that bear will rip your fucking head off." And I have a very healthy having semi grew up in Lake Tahoe. I stay away from bears. I get it. I just recently, last year, I was staying in the Tahoe Keys, because my daughter got married, and we rented a place in the Keys for a month, right? And the Keys are infested with bears. I usually stay in like the mountainous areas. I might see one or two. I saw a bear damn near every single day that I was there. And I was getting my jet skis, and my wife and I were going out. And she's like, she couldn't even speak because the thing was that close, and it was coming down the dock. Like it like had a baby in tow, and it was like trying to get over like the little chain link fence to get a little maybe 4-foot chain link fence. And she's like, "Just get on your jet ski, get on your jet ski." I'm like, "What?" And I look over, and as close as probably where Kyle is over there. That's how close I was to it. Yeah, it was very close to it. And I would not get next to a bear. But the whole point is, like, the video was this chick who got basically mauled and killed by a bear. Well, of course, what happens is the black pill doomers, the incels, go and throw this out there, and they want to say, like, well, look how stupid this chick is, right? Because she didn't take the guy's warning, and she got killed as a result of it. That was the whole point of that. It's not about the bear. It's about the fact of what happened and what led up to that. So what happens then is we have women who will come back and they'll say, well, I would trust a bear in the forest more than a man. And then, of course, now we're supposed to redirect and reframe the argument in the sense of men are more dangerous. They're killers of women, not bears, right? And I'm like, so now we're going to take the fact that you didn't listen to this guy, or this girl didn't listen to this guy, she got killed, but now you're going to say that the men are more dangerous than bears, and so therefore it's a wash. And so this led me to sort of an old argument that I've had, and maybe you guys can help me out with this. Why do you guys think that women intrinsically today, it seems like modern women anyways, well, since the sexual evolution, don't trust men anymore? They're inherently untrustworthy. Do you think that that's a popular concept? Because that's what I hear a lot of.
I think.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's popular in rhetoric. I feel like in my life, because I go between like places like here, but a place like Boston, I don't feel like that's just necessarily. I don't feel like that's the norm. I don't really feel like that at all.
But they don't trust men in particular.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's. I feel like that's something that's like passed around as a rhetoric. I don't feel like that's something that's actually practiced.
I think you have to ask the right question. But okay.
Right. Well, I just pay attention to their actions, right? I don't feel like their actions really display.
Well,
that.
It seems to me like their actions are. A lot of women's actions today, modern women, at least in Western societies, their actions and their behaviors are meant to set up situations or set up their lives so that they can ensure their own security, because they don't trust men to be in charge. Like when you use,
I see what you mean.
you use, like for instance, when you use language like women need to submit to men, right? Women bristle at that because it sounds like slavery. It sounds like women need to, like I was about some of the videos I was playing earlier here, like women need to learn to, it was Sadia Khan who said this. Women need to learn to submit to a worthy man, right? And they have a really tough time doing that. And I think it's primarily because women don't trust men.
It might be a little, there's two things to unpack is that, and I remember Mike Sartain talks about it all the time. It's like, stop sleeping with men that lie to you then.
Right.
So there's kind of that side of things. But what you're also talking about, not trusting and having to give up and trying to be, we talk about submit, which is a tough word to say, but trying to have a woman be feminine around a really masculine guy. I know just hear me out. I saw a clip from Teal Swan. Now I think she's a woman. When she's a woman talking to women about women's issues, I think she's got some points. And she talks about women having to come out into this marketplace now to compete with men. So she talks about them having to build a shield around their femininity, like their femininity is a flower, but they have to put this shield around it. And what happens is now that flower doesn't get any sunlight, doesn't get any water, doesn't get any rain, and they kind of lose their femininity. And they pick up masculine traits, such as they get a huge ego investment into their success for whatever it is that they're doing. And then, and I remember there was somebody that was on Access Vegas, and she talked about that. She's like, well, if I met a guy, I don't know if I could do that. And it's like, okay, you meet a guy who's super masculine and you're really into him. Can you bring your femininity back? Can you make that change?
Can you get back in touch with your inner feminine?
I mean, he's showing up with the UV lights and a ton of fertilizer and water, and he's going to try to get that flower to come back. But it's like, can you do that? And I think it might manifest itself in a way where they're saying, I don't trust men, but it's like, I just don't want to, I've done all this for myself. I have all this. I don't want to give that up to have to take orders from someone else. Right. So it's not a matter of trust. It's their own ego investment in their own success that they're trying to protect. And they just, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. So it's just the way they're saying it. But I think if they meet the right guy, they could do it.
It's easier to do.
But it may not be a light switch. Like, they're not going to all of a sudden be like that overnight. It might take time.
Yeah. That's what I was like, to add on to his point. That's what I meant by, like, I say that I think that's the rhetoric, but I feel like when they meet the right guy, they do like to be led. I've just noticed that. So I completely agree with his point.
What do you think about it, Joe?
Well, it comes down to the decisions you make in your life and the people you hang out with. And are they hanging out with the right guys? Right. I mean, because all our decisions, where we are today is based upon the decisions and things that happened to us in our past. So is it a commentary on who men are today, or is it a commentary on what decisions people make in their lives? And if a woman feels like she doesn't have any safety or security with men, and she needs to keep a job herself because she can't trust men, then where did that come from? Right.
I was going to say is, like, I think where it comes from is really this empowered woman narrative that's been around really since like the late 60s and early 70s, sort of the Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem era stuff. Because I still hear a lot of that same rhetoric.
Well, I would say my mom was kind of somewhat of a man hater. I'm not going to give her the full man hater moniker, but she had some things happen in her life where men didn't show up for her. She had miscarriage when she was 21. She had a male doctor who was not comforting in any way, and said that you could die tonight, or you might live. And so he put her into a state of fear. And so over time, I don't know where else she had it, but she wanted a strong man in her life. But she married a guy that was kind of a mama's boy. My stepdad. He was a good dude, totally good dude. But he was. He just placated her, basically.
I think if women don't get that provisioning, protection, and parental investment from a guy, they feel like they have to do it themselves. And so really for the last, I think since the boomer generation, so I guess maybe the last 4 generations since the post-sexual revolution, we've kind of systematically turned men into either incompetent, or they're like Homer Simpson and Everybody Loves Raymond, or that kind, the stereotypical doofy dad from sitcoms and stuff like that. Then mom needs to save him from himself. He just can't take care. He's like basically a big kid, right? And so he's a drag, right? He's dead weight. Then you got the guy who's like borderline abusive, and he's not quite going to send you to like the women's battered shelter or something like that, but maybe he's manipulative, maybe he's not there, maybe he's just simply absent. There's the guy that is gonna be, for lack of a better term, the borderline abuser. And then there's really kind of a modern, like sort of millennial / Zoomer generation archetype, which is the guy who's just simply incompetent. He doesn't know how to drive a stick. He doesn't know how to tie a Merovingian knot. He doesn't know how to change a flat tire. His like basic Boy Scout skills that probably any other generation would know how to do, but now he doesn't know how to do those things because he's incompetent. And those tend to be like the three archetypes that we repeat over and over in our media, in our stories, in our music, in our, our movies, and our narrative. And so, and in all of those, it requires women to pick up the slack for the fact that the guy's an abuser. So she's got to be more independent and break away from him. The guy who is Homer Simpson, the guy who is the doofy dad, well, he's just a big kid and he's dead weight, but you got to save him from himself, right? And so therefore she's got to be able to have her own money and have her own education, and have everything else, so she can take care of not only just her own security needs, but also, save the dude from himself. And then there's the incompetent guy who can't, change a flat. So she's got to make enough money so she can hire the plumber to fix the sink, or she's got to find somebody who's going to be able to change the tire, so she's got the money to do that. And in all of those scenarios, that guy is dead weight, or he can't provide for the beta bucks, for lack of a better term, provisioning, protection, and parental investment side of hypergamy. And so when we have conditioned women over the course of 4 generations to believe that those are the only choices that they have, of course they're not going to trust guys. Of course they don't want, like, half of the time, like when I'm talking to women who like work for Robert Kiyosaki, like they're empowered women. That they're the followers of Kim Kiyosaki, basically, who's basically the female empowerment version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And they'll ask me, and they'll talk to me. They'll say, "Hey, Rollo, why can't I find a guy? Why can't I find a man?" And I go, "Well, you become the man that you wanted to marry." Well, yeah, but I did everything that society told me that I'm supposed to do. I went to 4 to 8 years ago, got my education, took out my student loans, and now I got to pay them back. I'm majored in communication or whatever. Now I've got my own business. I'm educated. I have done all of these things that would otherwise make me an alpha male, but I find that now I'm 35 years old and I can't find a guy who wants to have babies with me, and my mom wants to have grandkids, right? And I say, well, you need to get in touch with your inner feminine, just like you were saying, Joe. It's like, you got to find some way to sort of get back to that. And the first thing they tell me is like, what? I got to dumb myself down? Like, femininity in that situation means turning yourself stupid. Yeah. I got to be like one of these dumb with big tits and everything, and pretend like I'm not smart, and pretend like I haven't earned my stripes, and pretend like I haven't earned my education and everything else, just so I can make some man feel good about himself. And I'm like, yeah. Well, yeah, because what do you want to do?
I mean, Tristan probably talk about it better from his experience over the last 10 years, through school and education, but you're exactly right. Society, social media, Hollywood is telling these women, go get the bag. Or I shouldn't say that.
You can't trust men, so you have to provide your own
security. You have to get your own career, college, pursue everything. You get all that pride in what you've accomplished, and then it's like, are you really supposed to settle for somebody or not? Because this whole thing has occurred. It's not a criticism. I understand what it is, but it just appears that it was done at the expense of men. It was done at the expense of boys that were growing up in school. So maybe back in our day, there would have been an equal amount of men and women, so they would have been able to find someone a little bit more easily. But now it's being done. Tristan is the outlier.
Yeah,
you're the one that's the rarity there, because you're going to university and the ratios are way out of favor. You might be enjoying that. It might be a blast.
No, ratio's not in favor at all.
It's not all that good.
It's not. That's not Vegas. Well, it's not Vegas.
In general, the amount of college degrees that are being given out every year.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the ones that are entering the marketplace, and hypergamy just raises its head again, and they're looking for somebody that's either equal or slightly above, and there's just fewer of them to go around. And then they become, they don't trust guys. What they do see available, what they do see that they have access to, they don't trust them. Yeah, they don't want to settle for them, and therein lies they can't become feminine again.
Right.
Because it's like, yeah, I'm settling.
But you're talking about a pretty small group of women, though.
I wish I was.
Well, my point is, the idea is that they are self-sufficient, right? And that's a pretty small group of women. And so that, and because they are self-sufficient,
it also might speak to the fact that what we were talking earlier is like women between the ages of 18 and 29, more of them are in relationships with guys who are clearly older than they are, because perhaps that's what is motivating them to want to be in some sort of sense of monogamy with an older guy, because that guy can provide, or at least moderately more so, provisioning, protection, and parental investment, whether that's money, whether that's emotional security too. I think a lot of people think that when I talk about long-term security, it's always about like finances. It's not. It could be emotional security as well. It could be connection. Yeah, it could be connection. That security comes in a lot of different forms. So we can't just look at it from the sense of, well, he makes $100,000 a year. It might be he makes that, but he's also really good with kids, and comes from a good family, and he really loves his chick, right? Sure. So it could be that. But what I was saying is here, maybe this is more to the point. In 2022, right around, I think it was May of 2022, Allie, what's her name? I can't Real Femme Sapien. She was on TikTok, and she was used to be really good friends with Pearl. Mm-hmm. And she had done this viral TikTok, and her viral TikTok was her talking to Pearl was actually doing the interview. It was Allie who was doing this. And she said something to the effect of like, my husband is my employer, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And he was in his 50s, and she was in her late 20s. And so that people lose their mind on that already. And how she was trying to have babies. She's had a kid since then. And she was just sitting in the car, and she's doing this impromptu interview. And she says, yes, I submit to my husband. That's what my job is to do, right? Submit. And women on TikTok and on Twitter and everywhere else lost their fucking minds over this. Yeah. And why? Because this fear that she's getting with a guy and she has no backup plan. So even when she's with a guy who can handle the finances, can handle the emotional security, can handle the provisioning, protection, and parental investment pretty well, and he's 50 at the time, there's still this sort of existential fear that he's going to find a trophy wife. He's going to find somebody better. Well, what if he takes off on you? What if he starts fucking around on you? What if? You got to get the bag, girl. You got to have some sort of fail safe. So it's not just about like providing long-term security for themselves, which might be the case. Like that might be a rarer instance. But what's not so rare is this sort of mentality that there has to be a fail safe between you and that guy, because he might go take off with his secretary and have a trophy wife, and you're left with 2 kids, and you're screwed, right? Which is kind of ridiculous considering like divorce laws and child support today. Yeah. But yeah,
I remember seeing that in a debate where they brought up this, he's going to leave, and it's like, that's got to be such a small percentage. I mean, that's such an outlier.
Oh, it really is. But the fear is almost universal.
Well, that's because of social media, and they see another lady on TikTok, and they absorb it all in. Yeah. And it's like, and that's the other thing too. I think women have issues with they see one that they consider to be their equal, or they think they're more attractive than, and he's got a great guy.
Mm-hmm. So I should have that. I should at least have that.
That's right. Yeah. So they fall into the trap of Me Tooism from seeing things on social media that drive it. That's the reason they're going to go after the 30-year-old with the 50-year-old is because she's not following the social media sisterhood line. Mm-hmm. And that's because that's not what the majority of them are saying. That's not what's driving the algorithm for everyone to watch. Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say, and I brought this up on Dr. Phil too, when I was talking about like how men have become superfluous, right? Yeah. Now, is this like some literal thing that's happening? No, but it's this mentality, this pervasive understanding that like men are, you'll see these it's on TikTok or it's on YouTube or Instagram. You see these guys who are like the man on the streets. I think I've even played these on Access Vegas. Do we need men? No, fuck men. Do we need men? No. Do we need men? And it's like every last one of these girls is like just in your face. Fuck men. And honestly, when I see something like that, I go, that's a lack of trust of those guys, or at least the men, not guys in particular, guys in specific, but like the idea of like the global concept of men, right? We don't need men, right? And of course, that's what you have like shows like whatever podcasts, or even like Myron and Fresh when they'll point this out, like we need men. Like, everything in this room was built by men. The roads you wrote here on were built by men, and trying to make them, sort of self-aware of those things. But it doesn't change that mentality. It's still like those same women that can go on whatever podcast, hear that, and they'll be the next one on the man on the street and say, yeah, fuck men. When you ask guys the same question, do men need women? They're like, fuck yeah, especially if they're hot, like they will almost universally answer yes, or women will almost universally answer no. And I think in that universally answering no is really sort of where the attitude is. And maybe it is. Maybe it's social media driven at this point.
But I don't think a woman's going to say no if she's not self-sufficient.
Right.
If she's self-sufficient,
then she doesn't need them.
She feels like she's.
And
Men
I'm not saying that's all women.
I don't
I'm just
need.
saying
You've heard.
that's,
You've heard
that's
this.
probably
On,
the criteria.
You probably heard this on a million times on a million shows that I've been on. It's like women will say, "I don't need a man, but I want a man." And so the man they don't need is the guy who can provide long-term security because she's already got that taken care of, either with her education, her money, or whatever else it is. And even if she doesn't technically have those, like realistically, tangibly, like present, the thought is that she can get those things. The perception is that's the real. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for Justin Waller. I'm looking for Jason Momoa.
Well, it depends, right? It's just like you were saying. There's probably different levels of trust. And if she makes her own money, then she would want a man that makes feels like, well, no, that could be, but feels like he has her back, right?
Well, I've talked to guys.
He wants a woman that he feels like has his back.
True. But I think that only happens if that guy is making substantially enough to cover what she had to cover when it comes to long-term security. So that's why when it's even on Access Vegas, every woman, like when we say, hey, would you give up OnlyFans? Would you give up Instagram?
Exactly.
And they'll say, yeah, if he made more money than I did, if he could provide more security than I'm able to provide for myself, then I would do it. Then I would submit. Then I would defer to his authority.
I mean, it's good that they say that, but even then, I'm wondering if they wouldn't struggle. I mean, true submission, it's like we're gonna move to here and we're gonna do this now. And like to have her give up the ego investment that she has in her own success and wanting to submit to give up. Look, I've been making decisions for myself since I was 18 years old and I'm 28 years old now, for 10 years. And now all of a sudden I'm going to give up all the decision making to somebody else.
Right.
And I think that they can say that, but still, I think that they would struggle.
I think that's like I think that's the number one hindrance of women finding a guy. Well, when I see tradcons talk about, we need to incentivize marriage. We need and get these guys away from these red pill podcasts, these red pill guys. And I think, okay, how would you do that? How would you incentivize marriage? How would you incentivize, how would you sweeten the deal, for guys to want to get married? Like, what would it take to sweeten the deal to do that? Would it be submission on the part of the woman? You could ask even traditional conservative women this, and they would still say, no, it should be like, I have traditional conservative women who will say it needs to be 50-50.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, they won't give up. They'll say, well, I want a partnership. You'll hear them say that.
Partnership, yes.
It's like, I'm not going to.
You looking for a partnership? You're not looking for shit.
And yeah, it's a real struggle because they just have so much invested in themselves. They just don't want to give it up.
So I think if we're ever going to, like, would people really want people to get married and have babies and solve the fertility crisis and whatever else, you'll save the West. I think that's not going to happen unless you can do two things. You can make marriage like old school marriage. I'm not saying what way you do it now, but I think you need to make old school marriage incentivize. You got to find some way to sweeten the deal for guys. That's number one. The other part I think is that we need to get to a point where women can implicitly trust guys, or it's not so maybe that's not the word, maybe implicitly trust them more than they are right now. Right. Because it's always, trust but verify at this point.
I think to get guys on board, it would be a simple change. It wouldn't be a change in the tax code. It would just be a different tax bracket. So if you get married and you start having children and they're your kids.
Yeah.
There would be a
good condition.
They're
your kids.
That there might be like a good start just to sweeten the deal.
They're already dependent. Deductions you can take.
And then, because you can stay under the existing tax code, or you could come out with a tax code where, okay, you're married and you're having children and they're both your biological child. And once you have two, like it's 25 grand off your taxes for each one. So once you have two, you have 50 grand off. If you have, and then this is how you sweeten it. You say, look, if you have three, because we really need to get the birth rate above two. If you do three, we'll give you $100,000 tax break, as long as you two maintain your marriage. And the three children are your biological
So financial
children.
Incentives.
I think for men, that's how you get them on board. And then, because that creates a light at the end of the tunnel for them to be able to financially provide. Man, if I had a trade and I could make 100 grand, we get all 100 grand. And I'm going to be able to buy a house and be able to provide for a wife. I think that's probably the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And be able to have my wife stay at home with the kids for as long as she wants, and then move them. And then and as long as they stay married, and then you can also make an incentive. It's like, as long as you two stay married, like you can take this tax break up until, say, the kids are 26. And then, but if you stay married, you get to keep half or all of the tax break.
I see.
Right. So you make it financial for guys. And it's, I know that's, people will go, oh, you know,
I think most guys would say, I want a guaranteed blowjob every Saturday. That or something. Well, I think that might be the sweeten the deal.
But
can I get the $100,000 and a blowjob every Saturday?
If a guy can get into the trades and he's making $100,000 and he's taking home every penny, he's going to be able to keep a woman happy enough to the point where he's probably going to be able to be quite happy in that realm, in that side of the relationship.
That'd be interesting.
Be the one taking
I would love to bring that up with like traditional conservatives, because they're like always, it's always like these drive-by, you know, comments about like, we really need to find a way to get the guys back with the girls. And
I'm not talking about changing the tax law. It's just you add it in. It's like, you can opt into this program or opt out. It's like, well, what if we're already married and we have kids, but they're not ours? Well, then you stay under the same tax code. But if you're still married, you can still have kids together. And we'll give you the tax break, but it's got to be very strict, very simply write it on one page, and that's it.
Cool.
You know, and that, because for guys, that's how we think. We're logical, right? So we're looking at, okay, can I make the money? And if I'm making the money, then the women will maybe come along.
Last question. Do you want to get married again?
Oh, you asked him
that. I asked him, do you want to get married again?
Oh, I wouldn't say no. I'm not going to say no.
Even after everything, you've been married once,
well,
right? Once.
Okay. We were together for over 30 years. So it's, I don't say no to anything off the bat anymore. I try to meet women. I try to get to know them.
Are you specifically looking for women that you might be able to marry in the future? Maybe that's a better question.
I'm looking to make friends and have fun. And if I find somebody that's, you know, find somebody that I really connect with, we'll see where it goes. But it's not a focus of my life. It's not even the top 5.
So you're not dating with intent?
No. Well, no.
Are you dating with intent, young man?
Lots of intent,
think,
of course.
You know, we both meet women
all
the time. We both meet women all the time, and I would say that it's not even in the top 5 things of my primary focus of what I'm trying to do with my life right now. But I do meet them, and we just. I think Ryan, it's a bit of a dark thing, but Ryan said, you know, just whenever you see somebody, when you see a woman, just imagine like she's already got a body count of 100.
Yeah.
But stick around to find out.
No, Mike says, imagine she has like chlamydia.
Yeah. But well, what that does is you don't have any investment in her right off the bat, right? You can maintain a bit of aloofness and you can have a real conversation. Because Mike also says, talk to him like a guy. Talk to him like you would one of your best friends. Hey, bro, what's up? But then you stick around and get to know them and find out if you're wrong or not.
Yeah.
Find out if they're a good woman, you know, and they just might be.
Joe, are you dating with intent?
No.
No. Okay, good. Are you dating with intent, young man?
Lots of
God damn it.
I'm not sure.
How will we save the West?
I'm not sure that we can describe on a YouTube video the type of intent Tristan has.
What's your intent?
Rollo, I'm not having any more kids. Rollo.
You're not. Okay.
I'm not the savior of the West.
I get you.